The wind howled through the mountain road as Rango gripped the wheel tighter. The sky darkened fast, fog swallowing the trees around them. Something about this place felt off. The road signs were too old, too forgotten. No birds, no sound. And then they saw it. A wooden sign half buried in moss. Welcome to Nilbog. Population. As the jeep rolled past, a shadow moved in the trees. Rango's eyes narrowed, heart pounding. This wasn't just another stop on their journey. This was the place where it would all begin. Red's boots tapped softly against broken stones. She held her lantern close, its glow flickering through the fog. Buildings leaned like they were about to fall. Doors were chained shut, windows painted with strange green symbols. Not a single soul in sight, yet every step felt watched. Her breath fogged the air as she whispered, "Something lives here, something that's not human anymore." And in that silence, just for a second, she heard footsteps behind her. But when she turned, there was no one there. The table was long, creaking under the weight of glowing green food. The townsfolk sat perfectly still, their smiles frozen, their skin crusted like tree bark. Jaxon sat among them, his fur bristling, his eyes locked on their hands, unmoving. The food pulsed slightly, as if it were alive. Something in his gut screamed, "Don't eat." He leaned in to sniff and smelled soil and death. One of the villagers slowly turned to face him, head tilting unnaturally, and whispered, "Eat and become one of us." Jeffy leaned over the dusty bathroom sink, breathing heavy. His reflection twitched for a moment. It wasn't him. Its skin was green, its mouth stretched too wide. It had his helmet, his eyes, but something darker inside. He blinked hard, the mirror shattered. He screamed, but not in his voice, from the shards. The twisted reflection still grinned. Then vines crept out of the drain, wrapping around his legs. The lights flickered, the door slammed shut behind him, and Nilbog took another piece of him. Jaxon ran. The forest wasn't real, but it felt real. Trees made of bone cracked under his feet. The sky above glowed red like fire. Behind him, shapes moved, growling, whispering his name in goblin voices. Then he saw himself, a younger version, bloody, eyes wide with fear, crying green tears. Jaxon reached out, but roots wrapped around his arms, pulling him down. "You belong here." A voice hissed. He howled in rage. But in Nilbog, even dreams can kill. The library was silent to silent. Rango stepped carefully between cobweb-covered shelves. In the center, it sat, the book, bound in something not quite leather. He reached out. The pages opened on their own, filled with drawings of humans turning into plants, trolls devouring shadows, and a town feeding off fear. As he read, green mist curled from the spine. The words whispered in a language older than death. He slammed it shut, but the whisper didn't stop. It had already entered his head. Red crouched in the damp basement, her lantern flickering red across the stone floor. Goblin runes glowed faintly beneath her, symbols she somehow understood. She whispered the words, her voice trembling. The flame dimmed, shadows slithered. Around her feet, from above, something moved on the ceiling. The lantern snuffed out. Darkness. Her heartbeat echoed in her ears. In that pitch-black second, a wet breath hit her neck. She didn't scream. She couldn't. She just reached for the flame and prayed. He couldn't help himself. It looked delicious. Jeffy bit into the green cookie and for a moment laughed. Then his body jerked. His fingers twitched. His vision blurred green. Veins popped on his arms. He screamed, mouth foaming with mossy mist. Something inside him shifted. He dropped to the floor, writhing, clutching his stomach. And far below the house, deep in the roots of Nilbog, something smiled. It had waited, and now it had its vessel. Jaxon dropped to his knees, claws digging into the barn floor. He gasped, chest burning, spine arching. Green cracks raced across his veins like lightning. His muscles tightened, bones shifting. Beneath thick gray fur, the werewolf in him fought to stay in control. But Nilbog was poisoning it. Shadows moved through the rafters, whispering ancient goblin chants. His eyes, once bright blue, flickered green. Jaxon let out a guttural howl, one filled with pain, rage, and something unrecognizable. Red stood before the cursed tree, its bark twisted into human screams. She raised her lantern and saw the truth. Dozens of faces, eyes open, mouths frozen, trapped inside the wood. One blinked, another wept green sap. She fell back, trembling, as voices whispered through the branches, "Join us, stay forever." The ground around the roots pulsed, as if breathing. She realized with horror. This tree wasn't feeding on water. It was feeding on souls. The church shook as the ritual began. Jeffy lay on the altar, vines wrapped tight around his limbs, mouth twitching with each chant. Round him, townsfolk in cracked goblin masks swayed, eyes glowing green. The walls bled moss, the ceiling above cracked open, revealing the sky was no longer sky. A massive eye watched from above. Jeffy's body lifted, spinning. The goblin book on the floor caught fire. The voice of the town spoke through the villagers. "He is ours now." The dream came like fire. Red was small again, running through dark woods lit by flames. A goblin chased her, teeth gleaming. She tripped. It bit her shoulder. But then she turned, eyes filled with rage. Her lantern flared with red light, burning the creature into ash. Her mother's voice echoed, "You carry the flame. You were born for this." She woke, gasping, hand over the old scar. She had always belonged to Nilbog, but now she would fight it. Rango sat alone in the ruins of the church, book in hand, eyes wide with dread. The pages flipped on their own, windless. They whispered his name over and over. He clutched his head, trying to block them out, but the voices were inside, now deep, crawling, ancient. "You were always meant to come here, Sheriff." He looked at the book, now glowing, pulsing like a heart, and in that moment, Rango knew Nilbog didn't want him to escape. It wanted him to stay. The altar exploded in green light, and Jeffy rose from it, floating midair, his body twisted, skin cracked open with roots and vines. His helmet spun beside him, levitating. His laughter echoed like a broken machine. He wasn't Jeffy anymore. He was the voice of Nilbog. With a scream, he unleashed a storm of tiny goblins from the floorboards. His eyes burned emerald. The church shook. Red yelled for Jaxon. But deep down, she knew Jeffy was gone. Flames tore through the church. Rango stood at the center, the goblin book glowing violently in his claws. He chanted as fire and wind swirled around him. Red held the circle of flame strong. Jaxon fought off goblins from the windows, snarling. Bloodied, Jeffy floated above them, screaming in rage. The final words of the spell echoed like thunder. Green lightning shot from the book, striking Jeffy midair. The goblin spirits screamed as they burned. And then everything went silent. The morning sun broke through the fog. Nilbog was in ruins. Jaxon limped through the ashes. Red's lantern barely flickered. Rango held the book, now sealed shut, his eyes hollow. Jeffy was gone, or so they thought. A giggle echoed in the mist. They stopped. Red whispered, "Did you hear that?" Behind them, in the soil, a green eye opened. Nilbog wasn't destroyed. It had simply changed hosts.